anyone can scale, but it makes it a lot easier if you have the opportunity. For us, our situation was fairly opportunistic. We had the land. It just made sense for us, but it doesn't always make sense to scale if you just don't have that opportunity. It might just make more sense for you to just focus on making your machines more efficient at home. So, a lot of people feel a pressure to continue scaling, but it's okay if you don't. You can always try it, in a different location than you have. Some people, they might not have a real club, or they only have Alliant Energy, unfortunately, and that's very unfortunate for them, but it is what it is. But, I guess you don't feel forced that you have to get bigger every single day. It's okay to, really hone in on your strengths, because we've always said that is play to your advantages.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Stackin Sats, presented by Force-Based Mining. I am your host, Plamenko. In this episode, I'll be speaking with Eric and Stephen Wilson of Wilson Mining. These are two brothers in the Bitcoin mining industry, started up their own farm this past year. I was super happy to have them up at the studio. I wanted to give them a shout out for driving up 5 hours, recording a couple hours of the podcast, and then driving straight home. Stephen and Eric are super knowledgeable, and they shared their experience of beginning a mining operation, all the hiccups and headaches that went along with that, and the victories as well. As always, this is not financial advice. Please enjoy my conversation with Eric and Stephen Wilson. Well, I'm super appreciative to have you guys here today, for making the drive over to the Force-Based studio.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah,
This is cool.
Appreciate it. This is Stackin Sats, and I'm here with Steve and Eric.
Yes.
Of Wilson Mining.
Yes, sir.
How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Tremendous. It's a beautiful day out.
Yeah, we're finally turning around and getting some good weather. Classic Midwesterners out here.
Yes.
We're talking about how it's nice, but we're sick of that snow.
Good news is BTC is pumping a little bit.
Yeah.
That's been super exciting.
How long have you guys been, following BTC, and kind of like what's your journey been like,
Sure.
So I started in our neighbor got me introduced into early 2018. He convinced me to buy some, and I just kept buying, and I kept telling him about it. And then he didn't like it at first.
I was hesitant at first. And
were you skeptical, or?
I just hadn't done any homework on it. And so basically Eric called me one night, and there was a huge crash one night, and he was like, "Look, Steven, if you were ever going to buy, you should buy now." I was like, "Fine, I trust you." And so I bought some.
It was March 2020.
Yeah, it was March 2020. So I bought some, and then I held on to it for 30, 45 days or something. I'm like, this is insanity. This is crazy. So I had to get out because it's too much, and I didn't know what I was doing. So then I finally had call it a break in my life, where I had time to really sit down and just okay, there's a ton of smart people that I respect really highly that are taking this stuff super seriously. Either I'm wrong or they're wrong, and I need to figure out which one it is. So I went and did the work on it and did my homework, and lo and behold, I was wrong. And and then all from there, then it was my turn to call Eric and say, and so the whole time I've been thinking how do we make a business out of this? I want a business in this industry really, really bad. So I've been thinking about it, and I put enough of the pieces together, and I was like, we should be mining. Iowa has cheap power down there. We have a bunch of land, there's just enough pieces down there to make it make sense. And I was like, Eric can fix the machines. He was a car mechanic before this.
Nice.
I'll bet that, he can fix the machines. I've never seen him not once look at a machine and not be able to figure out how it works. So I'm like, I'll bet he can figure out how to do this. And so then I called him. I was like, hey, I think we should start a Bitcoin mining business. And Eric goes, yes, let's do it.
Didn't take much to sell.
And it was like, I've got the X amount of dollars in Tether right now. Like, how many Bitcoin miners can we buy? And it was like, whoa, slow down. So then, we bought our first one. We bought a 110 Pro version, stuck it in our mom's basement, like figured out how to like set it up, connect it to a pool, like all that kind of stuff. And then, it became like an addiction, quick, fast, in a hurry. Like I'm sure like a lot of people can relate to. And then we bought 23 more fast and shot down to Iowa. And I'll kind of let Eric kind of talk about like our first setup.
Yeah, for sure. Real quick, that time during March 2020, that was insane. That was right when COVID happened.
Yeah.
And I remember I watched Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Tesla.
Yeah.
And I was just like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And that's actually when I first finally became like orange pilled and intrigued to it all.
Yeah. Sure.
It was such a buzz time, obviously.
Yeah. Right.
But Eric, you were saying
So when we first bought our S19, we didn't know anything at all. We didn't know anything about overclocking firmware, how to set it up in the home, and so we bought the miner, and then we had to. Well, it was my job to research how to figure out how I can get it running in the house. It's not as easy as it may seem. Obviously, you need 240 volt. You need a special plug, like a dryer plug or something. But so we got that running, and then we initially weren't going to do any overclocking firmware. That quickly changed after a few months, as it does for many home miners, I'm sure. You just want more hash rate, more Bitcoin. So anyway, we got that running in the house, and then Stephen, we talked about going down to Iowa. Like he said, we have quite a bit of land down there, and then we had a machine shed with a drying system set up for grain operation our family has. So it has 600 amp service, 100 kVA transformer, and we realize, that's about 100 kilowatt. We can run, give or take anywhere from 20 to 35 machines depending on overclock. And so we initially decided, because it was so dusty down there, we have to do immersion because we don't want to filter the air.
Nice. I was just going to ask you.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was just, it's better for the miners. You can run the miners harder.
How was the immersion experience?
It was
like, I know a lot of people talk about it, but I hear that it can be a pain. You have to know what you're doing.
Yeah, I like it more than air, actually. I think it's easier because with air, you have to assume, air comes into the building here, it leaves there. With immersion, you can see the hose. Fluid's coming in there, where it goes. There isn't an opportunity for there to be, something you don't see. Again, you can see all the liquid. But our experience was really positive. And so we bought all the immersion equipment. We got it all set up over the course of, a few weeks or so. I mean, a lot of pretty long nights down there.
Yes.
A
lot of long nights down there.
Did you guys make the tank yourself? Like,
we bought a tank from Stan from Arctic Systems. Well, we bought a DCX tank initially. And we had some bad experience with them. The tank was leaking a little bit.
Everything was European, which threw off
all the electrical
stuff is European, and our electrician was like, "What is all this stuff that you brought me here? Like, why is And so there was mistakes that we made there, and then we bought a tank from Stan, and then he was the only guy who was selling tanks. So then we kind of set out to okay, if we can't really buy tanks from him, because he was getting huge orders, and so he wasn't really going to deal with guys that were buying small tanks like us or whatever. And so then it was we might have to start building our own tanks. So then we started building our own tanks, and it's a big a bathtub. It's not that terribly difficult or whatever, but everything works super good. And we made the kind of big glaring mistake where we didn't get the power side really figured out. And we basically got our first month's power bill back, and it was 18 cents, and just
holy crap,
blew the entire thing up. And everything worked perfectly. It was it's a sin that the world isn't going to get to see that first immersion setup that we built. And but that just was what it was. There's no amount of overclocking or efficiency gains that can get you past 18 cents a kilowatt hour of power. So it was okay, sulk for 24 hours and then, figure out like where to go from there. And, luckily we had, other land that was 3 miles away, with a different power provider, and we called them up and they were super, super motivated to help us. And they gave us a really, really good rate. And they're like, yep, love to have you guys. Like, here, my name is Garrett. I'm the CEO of this. Like, you guys work directly with me. So it was just like a really good like sigh of release to get that relationship moving. The bad thing is like all that work that we had put in for like, time, work, money, like everything was basically burned and wasted at the Immersion facility. If miners probably know, like Immersion is not cheap, right? So that was kind of a shitty part of the whole situation. But we took it on the chin and moved to the second facility that we have been advertising on Twitter and our website and stuff like that. And so that's how we ended up there.
The progression is something that interests me, because you had mentioned at first, you called up Eric, you're like, hey, we're gonna build a Bitcoin mining business.
Yeah.
But it initially started with, that one ASIC and kind of doing that whole like home mining approach. Like, were you guys kind of just like, it was as you were learning and you were like, the way we have to scale this, we have to immediately scale it? Or how did you kind of go from like starting off at, the home mining level to then, very quickly wanting to build up?
Yeah.
It was, we both really we're obviously very competitive. We grew up playing sports our whole life. We were competitive with each other, and we really like a challenge. And so it was a challenge to get one up, and then we got the one up, it was running perfectly. And then we want the challenge of the overclock. How do we get more hash rate? How do we deal with the heat, stuff like that? And it was, it just kept becoming, how can we want more Bitcoin, more hash rate, more challenge, more energy, more heat. It just kept progressing to more. When you buy like a car, you first, you buy a sports car, you say, oh, I'm not going to modify it at all. I'm going to keep it the same, and then it starts, buy a nice set of tires, a nice set of rims. Oh, just throw an exhaust on it. Oh, doing this, it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And it's like, you can be happy with a home miner and it works out perfectly. But for us, we just kept wanting more and more and more. And I don't think that'll really change anytime soon.
Yeah, no, probably not. I just saw for the very beginning, I just saw a big vision with the whole thing. Like, I could just see all the farmland that's down in Iowa. I could see, the cheap power that was down there. Like, I just saw it real clearly, and I could see this is our way to I should backstep so our family's been in we're technically fifth generation farmers.
I was gonna say,
yeah, that's why
land,
bringing up land and farmland and stuff. So we're fifth generation farmers, and so the vision behind it was we can add a new business line to call it the family business, right? And so I could really just see this is a new revenue stream for us, and we have so much of this already in place.
So especially self-sustainable,
yeah,
because you guys, you're saying, that's just something that you're always thinking about anyways,
right,
with the family.
Yeah. And so anyways, I just saw a big vision with it. And then, we're young, a lot of energy, a lot of time, I don't have a kids or family or anything yet. And so just a lot of ambition and energy going on. And that propels you to move quick, fast, in a hurry to get things rocking and rolling, right?
I love Bitcoin farmers too.
Yeah.
You guys are my favorite people to talk to. The energy is always there.
Yeah.
I met a goat farmer from Nebraska through a Bitcoin Milwaukee event a couple months ago. And
nice.
Yeah, he had this whole correlation to how the ASIC market is very similar to the competitive goat farming market that he experienced 20 years ago.
That's hilarious. I've kind of written some blogs about this topic or whatever, and I think farmers really intuitively get Bitcoin, it is a commodity. The whole digital thing kind of doesn't really make sense a lot to them, but they very much get and understand how commodity businesses work. And so it's super intuitive for them to like really like grasp it, you know. And if like you can kind of get them past like the digital part of things, you know, and it's like the mining is a good way to do that because they can like see and hold and touch the ASIC
There's
part.
some physical space with it.
Right.
Yeah.
They can like wrap their heads around that. But like all of those guys like really intuitively get like what this is and how like this business thing works with the commodities. And so it's like interesting to talk to those guys because a lot of them like you can tell like quickly really get things.
That's
You know.
awesome.
Yeah. it
I
is.
I just want more and more Bitcoin farmers, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, you mentioned, Steve, you know, you're getting to this point where like you see the vision, you know, you saw the land, you saw Iowa.
Yeah.
What is it about Iowa that's just like advantageous for a Bitcoin miner?
Man, first thing, there's, you know, Iowa's a huge exporter of energy. So we create like a boatload of energy. And if you drive through Iowa, like on 35, you'll see windmills everywhere, right? And so, you know, it's windy all the time, every day, every night, 365, like it's windy all the time down there. And so we're just a huge exporter of energy. So that just means that the energy is cheaper down there. And then you need like, you know, space. You can't mine Bitcoin in the middle of a city or even a neighborhood. Like that's just not going to work. So, you know, you need to have, you know, basically like farmland where your only neighbor is like 2 miles away and they're never going to hear the loud burr of the ASICs whatsoever, right? So it like a lot of that stuff just like lines up in Iowa where you have, you know, lots of rural farmland, cheap energy, and then, you know, even the culture where like farmers are very much like, you know, I'm going to, you know, do my thing on my farm and you go do your thing on your farm and we'll kind of, you know, leave each other alone, so to speak. We won't ask too many questions, right? And so there's not like, you know, nosy, pesky people like poking around asking, what are you guys doing in there? And like stuff like that. And so it's like a lot of that stuff adds up to Iowa. And then like the climate, like we were talking about before, like, you know, you're not battling the Texas heat year round, right? You know, it's cold down there right now and the ASICs just love it. So it's just, you kind of add all that stuff up together, and you get like a good place to mine some Bitcoin.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. And,
Yeah.
and like the consistency of the weather and, you know, all these other like physical landscapes that, you know, you've mentioned.
Yeah.
But it's still, you need people. You need to know the right people wherever you are.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what the case is, it could have everything that you need, but you know, you can't just go build a house on this perfect land. You have to know who to talk to.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
you guys mentioned, you know, you got that first bill where it was 18 cents per kilowatt hour and you had to immediately kind of like, you know, Y-turn and figure out a path quickly.
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of feel like I'm curious because it ties into, you know, how you were explaining the abundance of Iowa.
Yeah.
But yet you're still getting that giant electricity bill.
Right.
So I guess I want to hear more about the experience of dealing with the power company and Garrett, who you had met, who
Sure.
was just like a complete 180 from the start of how.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
we were working with Alliant Energy. I think they're pretty popular here in Wisconsin.
Yeah,
too.
Alliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Boo, boo.
We hate Alliant.
Not fans of Alliant. Don't endorse them at all, guys.
Don't work with them.
Yeah.
No Alliant
Yeah.
energy here.
Yeah.
So they were the first power provider at the grain bin drying site, and so we tried to work with them, and we kept telling them, you know, we're pulling, you know, X amount of power, we want to pull 100 kilowatts, every single hour, and I don't think they believed us. They said, oh, there's no way you're going to pull that much power in a shed. It's not going to happen. So they just didn't believe us, and then we started pulling it. They just said, all right, we don't know what you're doing, but we don't like it.
Okay.
So we tried to talk to the Iowa representative, like it was basically their you know, as high as you can go for their sales.
We basically went and like harassed everybody at this company. It was just me
And
and
climbed
Eric.
your way up.
It was just
Yeah.
me and Eric like
Mm.
calling these people like, you know, a couple times a day, like
Yeah.
trying to get to somebody who could help us.
Yeah.
Well, it's like when you're legitimate, you're just
Yeah.
like, yo, just pick up the phone.
Yeah.
I actually have a business going on. I
Mhm.
want to talk about this.
And so we finally got everyone rounded up. We got the local person who was the Alliant representative who actually came out and visited the site a few times because we wanted more power. This is before we got the first bill, fortunately. But so we got her on the, we got her on the Zoom meeting. We got the sales guy on the Zoom meeting. We got, I think it was like an accountant or something, like an account representative on the sale.
We got everybody on the meeting.
We got everybody on the meeting. So we finally get everyone's attention and we go, okay, we want to pull, 100 kilowatts. We want to do more. And they say, great, we would love to give you that power. And we're like, all right, great, we need a lower rate. And they say, we can't do that. And we're like, what do you mean? Well, you can't do that. Like, we know, there's lower rates around Iowa. We've talked to the miners in the area, there's lower rates. You need to get us that low rate. So, and they said, no, we're not going to do that. And we were trying to ask, like, well, what do you mean, why? And they said we couldn't because they have to pay 3.5 cents for a transmission service charge, to use the power lines. They're a publicly traded company, so you have to appease shareholders. I mean, they're a huge company. There was all these fees and riders added on. They weren't, I don't know if they weren't able or were willing to go any lower, but they just wouldn't budge on the rate at all. It was ridiculous.
I think that's something you don't hear much is like, from the perspective of the company, why they can't. And, like that, it seems a little bit more like, okay, well, you could have just said that at the start.
Yeah. Yeah. So we finally got, after I think it was 10 minutes into the meeting, they said we can't go any lower. And Steven was like, okay, great. Well, thanks for coming out. And we got, after months of harassment, we just ended the meeting. And then we got mad and we started emailing the other power providers in the area. And then we have another grain bin site at the other location 3 miles away. And that power provider is a local co-op. And so, it's not a big publicly traded company. It only provides power for maybe, 1,000 locations. So it's very small. And so that, that we had been a customer of theirs for 20, 30 years at that point. So they knew who we were. They knew our location. They knew our name. And so we called them up and they immediately took us seriously because they knew who we were, because we were locals. We weren't just some random people coming in, talk about this Bitcoin stuff. They say, no, these guys were farmers first. And now they're looking at something else.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it was, it was a big realization to us that, because, we were already down there, because we were local, we got taken seriously. We weren't immediately brushed off saying, no, we don't think you're going to pull that much power. It's like, no, we're landowners. We do know a thing or two about what we're doing. When we say we're going to do it, we're going to do it. And so he immediately took us seriously. We sat down, we had conversations with them. On the second email, he gave us a really good rate. And then us and, the power provider immediately just set to work on how we're going to do this. We both agreed we're going to pull this amount of power. Here's the price. How are we going to actually start doing it? And then, we started billing. We got the local electrician. His name's Randy. Me and him get along really well. It's
Get yourself a good electrician. It make or break your whole project.
Are there bad electricians?
Yes.
Oh yeah. There's bad ones.
Yeah, there are bad ones.
It's like a bad doctor. It's like it's going to be fatal.
Yeah. I mean, every town has a go-to electrician. And if you're in that community, that's the guy. Right. So when we say we're working with Randy, the power company knows Randy, the inspector knows Randy, everybody knows Randy. And so you're able to really piggyback off his credibility to really push your project through, even though everyone else doesn't understand what Bitcoin mining is. But they know Randy and they know he does a good job. So you're able to really kind of piggyback off his stuff and his reputation versus just being you guys do what? And we don't know who you are. And you're not from around here, and it's just all these questions, and so they kind of, just say, okay, yeah, we don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah, there's a lot less explain to do when it's more again, leave me alone. I just need this. It's okay, here's the check to go do it, and they just go, great, that's all I want to do. We're not getting questioned. It's just here's the check to go do it. I need this, and then it just gets done. Because on the first location we did use Randy, and again he didn't ask why or how. He just said we need 600 amps going to that shed. There was never a question about what the fuck you guys do, and it was just all right, no problem, we can get it done. How do you want it done? And just every time I call him, he answers and he helps out. It was just. And then we have another guy we work with that unloads all our heavy equipment, our transformers, our containers. And there was one time where we got a call from a shipper saying, hey, this is when we got our DCX immersion equipment, saying, hey, it's on the back of the truck. Where are you guys at? We're like, what do you mean? We never got a notification that you were coming. He's like, oh, well, no, I'm here right now. And so we called the equipment guy and we said, hey, there's equipment on the back of a truck. Can you go get it off? And he's like, yeah, sure. I'll be over there in half an hour.
Wow.
And so, I mean, you would never get that if, we didn't know him. He didn't know us. He would just say, I don't know who you are. No, I'm not going to do that. But, since he's worked with us plenty of times, he just said, okay, yep, I'm home. Let me go do that right now.
So a little bit of a background. I started off working in logistics in the industry. So it's just like you said that, and I was like, oh, really? You mean a trucker that never, notified the people that they were coming?
Shocker. Yeah.
That's so classic. They just show up with just like heavy equipment, and they're like, well, you need to move it.
It's stuff that I can't like deal with this on like at a moment's notice, like big, heavy stuff. Like I need specialized equipment.
You need a fork. All the things.
All the things that you need. And it's, hilarious, right?
That's so fun.
Yeah.
Well, through it all, I don't know. I just love I love this conversation here because I think for a lot of people to even wrap their head around Bitcoin is hard enough, but then to wrap their head around mining and how to begin doing that. Yeah. I've just been loving, we've had a little bit like a step-by-step almost. It's not like a complete manual, but you guys are really sharing some good insight, and I really appreciate that for the audience as well.
Yeah, I was going to say so the power company we're with now is a co-op, right? Okay. And so a co-op is a non-profit. And that's really the reason why we're able to get such low rates is because they're not actually making any money on us, and their business isn't to make any money. Versus when you're with, in a big investor-owned utility, it's like they have to make money on you. And so and we were having this conversation with Alliant, and they just said, look, we can't compete with their rates. And the reason they can't compete with those rates is because they need to make profit, and the co-op doesn't need to make a profit. So if you're kind of at the stage where you're looking, for who's a good power provider, I would be looking, out in the rural co-ops. And just basically they're passing on the price that they get it for straight to you, no markup. That's gonna be hard to beat for pretty much anybody else, right?
So what's their advantage in it? They have to, they're still a business, they're still operating.
Yeah.
What's in it for them, I guess?
So it's again, it goes back to the local. So the local co-op, it's important for people to have electricity, and how co-op works is the customers are the owners. And so it's important for the local community to like the co-op, and obviously it's incentivized for the co-op to employ, people down there so people have jobs. But that's kind of the incentive is there's this local community that, again, everyone needs electricity, and we all have to work together to make sure this business stays in business, so we all continue to have electricity and have low prices. So it's very, as typical, especially rural Iowa, is very community driven, as in let's work together to get, let's all make better opportunities for ourselves, I guess, is the way that, at least I believe,
right? So they tell us just keep the meter spinning, and what they really mean is if you spin the meter, then everyone keeps their jobs, and we don't have to downsize or anything like that. So,
Gotcha.
Right? Yeah.
The community stays happy. We can even grow that. We can even grow a little bit.
Yeah.
We can employ more people. It's just, it's a good thing for everybody.
Right. It's a super good good relationship. They're helping us, and then we're also really helping them. We'll be a big part of their business.
So it ties in. Does it tie into demand and kind of just more infrastructure for energy, for them, the co-op to build for the community?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we paid. We had to pay for our own lines to get to us. So we paid for the 5 megawatt lines to get to us, and all the other members will get to use those lines that we paid for. So I mean, it's good for everyone in that sense too. We upgraded their infrastructure basically, and everyone gets to use it for free. But it's totally worth it to us because we're gonna make a boatload of money on the back end, so it's worth it to us too, and they get new infrastructure. So it's kind of a win-win in that sense.
Well, Interesting. That's something that was like, just like, it wasn't even like in my understanding that there was this like mutual, relationship between, getting the power provided to you and the people who are using the power. But then as you learn about like, like mining for precious resources and like we all saw the Joe Rogan, we heard about the communities where there's no electricity, yet these people are all mining these precious materials for us to then, build our sustainable future.
Yeah.
And one thing that I kept seeing, and I saw it from oil and gas people on LinkedIn, of all places,
Yeah.
they were always talking about how there is no way to have like a functioning, prosperous society if you don't have electricity.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
And I don't think that that's any different from America. And that's where like these rural areas, like you guys are saying, I think really speaks to it, because you take that for granted in the city, just always having that.
Yeah, like literally anytime you flip your light on and it works every time. And it's like, you don't realize how like immaculate that is until like you really start like getting into the energy side of things. And you're just like, man, I just flip this thing on and like there's power every time, like somehow, some way. And it's like, that the stat that the highest quality of life countries all use the most energy. It's like pretty universal across the board. And it's like, we've kind of gotten into this mind frame where it's like, we need to be using less power. And it's like, really, you're just asking us to like decrease our quality of life, which basically nobody wants to do. It's entirely the wrong idea. We need to be thinking about how do we get more power, more energy, like, and not just from like any one source, like from all the sources, like, they're all fine, relatively speaking, like, just we need more of all of it. Right. And things are only going to get more connected. So it's like, 100% the right point to make.
And it's something that you don't hear often, but most scientists and engineers are in agreement that you do still need natural gas. You still need kind of these hydrocarbons, as like Alex Epstein calls them. But it's also great because from what I understand, and I've seen, the research, that Bitcoin mining is extremely sustainable, that over 50% of mining operations run on sustainable energy, net carbon. So it's really cool to hear that that's going on in Iowa too, and that you guys can take something like wind farms and actually put some good use to them.
No, seriously, and get some actual revenue from them, and they're not just like sitting idle. They're basically just wasting energy, so to speak,
and taking up the beautiful skyline.
And it taking up the beautiful skyline too, right?
I kind of want to transition into your guys' business and talk a little bit more about that. But before we do, I guess are there any things that you guys think are important to bring up, like for someone looking to begin Bitcoin mining and then to like begin thinking about scaling? Like, is there anything that we didn't really touch?
It was, I guess there, anyone can scale, but it makes it a lot easier if you have the opportunity. For us, our situation was fairly opportunistic. We had the land. It just made sense for us, but it doesn't always make sense to scale if you just don't have that opportunity. It might just make more sense for you to just focus on making your machines more efficient at home. So, I mean, a lot of people feel a pressure to continue scaling, but it's okay if you don't. I mean, you can always try it, in a different location than you have. Some people, they might not have a real club, or they only have Alliant Energy, unfortunately, and that's very unfortunate for them, but it is what it is. But, I guess you don't feel forced that you have to get bigger every single day. It's okay to, really hone in on your strengths, because we've always said that is play to your advantages. So, I mean, if you don't, if you're a home miner and your power isn't that great, you just have to focus on your efficiencies.
But you only have like 5 machines, and so you can sit around and just auto-tune them perfectly, and if like that's your advantage, and I can sit there and just like perfectly optimize my specific 5 machines, and like maybe that's my advantage versus someone with 1,000 miners. It's like they're not going to be able to sit there and give that much attention to detail to every single chip and every single miner.
Yeah,
right.
totally.
So just you don't have to get caught up in this whole like, oh, bigger is better thing, so to speak. Like, play your own game, play your own deal, and use the advantages that like you specifically have. And you don't have to sit there and look at Riot and Marathon's business model and think like that, you have to be that, or that's the only way to be successful mining, because like it's totally not.
Well, yeah. I mean, I see it as, hopefully they have done all these steps as well, and that's why, they might have gotten that point. But when it comes to like the ability to like procure ASICs, the ability to buy the infrastructure, to afford the power bill, none of that really is like, so like you're not just like making this Bitcoin and scaling exponentially all this money. Like the more you add onto it, it's very linear in terms of like expenses. There's no point where I'm like, okay, instead of buying 1, I should have bought 10. It's like it really isn't gonna like change the money you're making. It's like you guys are saying, it's way more like specific to what it is you're looking for, and what you can what you can afford and what you can do realistically.
Right. Yeah. Don't go try to bite off like more than you can chew. This community has like a very, very short leash on like BS, and so like if you get caught like BSing and over promising and under delivering, like there is no second chances in this community. Like people have a very, very short opportunity for where they'll hear you out, basically, and like for good reason. Like the whole don't trust, verify,
right?
And there's been like tons and tons of bad actors in this space. So like anytime anybody gets any sniff of anything, they're very, very quick and jumpy to start calling you all the bad names that you don't want to be called on the internet, right? And so it's like just being really careful about that, because if the community decides that you're a bad actor, and maybe you were and maybe you weren't, and you had the best intentions and you just made a mistake, right? But again, there's not going to be a second chance for you. So just like be super careful about it, because and the community is small, like pretty, a lot of everyone kind of knows or has heard of like most of the people that are kind of like doing stuff in this space. And so like, if you blow it once, it's going to be really, really hard to get yourself a second chance, and just like don't do that because it's small.
I think in terms of like reputation, like Compass is a great example here, because
super good.
I feel like I have a pretty nuanced opinion of them, because I do see them do good work, and I see them like, I think that they're trying to turn a new leaf too.
I don't think they're like evil or a bad company, or like bad people, or that they were trying to like rip a bunch of people off. Like I totally don't believe that was like their intention, but you bit off more than you could chew.
Yeah.
And
your ducks weren't in a row.
Your ducks weren't in a row, and there's no second chances. And there are people who will never, ever give you a second chance. And that reputation that you burned is next to impossible to get back. Like, if you go on Twitter and see what people say about them, like even with all their fiascos that happened, like, last year with everything, and it's like people, they didn't forget, and you're not going to be forgiven for it. It's like, I guess, good to know that before you're like really trying to make a move in the space. Like, get your ducks lined up.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a way more investing community with people who come from all kinds of backgrounds, and the last thing you want is like your name, your identity tied to something shady. This is about money that can be moved, in ways that work differently from our government, and just people you run into, you never know. So
totally.
In the Bitcoin mining industry, it's very important to have an honest approach with it.
100%. I couldn't agree more.
Let's talk about Wilson Mining.
Sure.
Let's I want to hear about your guys' operation and how things have been going for you. And
go ahead, E.
So it's been going pretty well. We just got up and running, and I think it's been a rough beginning of the year. So we initially told customers we were going to be up early January, And then we had some delays with the upstream container got delayed because of the December storm. Some of their trucks got stuck in the Midwest with the huge blizzard. And then we had a delay with the inspector. Our inspector was very picky.
Got super unlucky.
Oh, dude, this guy was a
Yeah.
It was the type where he said he wanted to make sure the lights in the container worked, but we couldn't hook it up because he wouldn't let us pass.
Oh my God.
And so he said, once we passed, he said, "Oh, I want to come back." And I don't think that's true. He just wants to keep his nose on our business. But it was just a nightmare. The power company said he's the type of guy he goes on properties where he's not allowed to, just try to find issues to try to give them citations to get them shut down. It's that type of guy. But we only got stopped on him for a month, but then we finally got up and running. It's been running well. We learn new things every single day.
That's it. For the most part, I think things have pretty much went like it's, a few hiccups, but like that's pretty normal for a new business. And we made, I would make this point to like everybody, we very easily could have just lied. And with, because we failed our first inspection and it was on us, right?
Yeah.
And that was our fault. We very, very easily could have lied and made up excuses and said, you know what, the inspector's sick and he couldn't get out to inspect us. Like it would have been super, super easy to do that. We didn't. We told everyone the truth and we said, we didn't pass. And if you guys want to, grab your rigs and leave and go somewhere else, like, we'll honor that, But we told everybody the truth. The people are super understanding when you just tell them the truth, and like what's going on. And we said, we failed the inspection. We're going to make all these changes. Like, this is what we need to do. No problem. This is when we expect it to be done. Like, we just kept everyone in the loop and everyone was super understanding and everyone stayed, right?
Those are the right customers to have too. Yeah.
Oh, and it's like, you got to own like, your own situation, right? And it's like, if you get caught lying again like that, now no one wants to hear, about, how you were delayed and why you were delayed because, you didn't tell the truth the whole time. And it's like, people are super, super understanding. I can't stress this stuff. They're so understanding when you just tell them what's going on. Yeah. Just tell them good, bad, ugly, literally just tell them the truth. And they're so fine with it. Right. But the second you don't tell them the truth, God, I don't have any time to hear you anymore. Just give me my rig back right now.
Yeah. It's a lot of money and it's a lot of trust, and people have just heard all the bad stories, the horror stories.
Yeah.
I'm with you. The times that like I, thought I was gonna get, skinned, like I thought I was gonna get destroyed for, delivering the news I had to, but you have to, keep your chin up, and like you said, you just have to be honest with everyone in this situation.
Yeah. Just own it for what it is, and mistakes happen, and most people are really understanding about things. And if they're not, then hey, it's fine. It's you lost one customer. It's not the end of the world. You'll probably get another one, right? Just don't start lying to people, because then you're never going to get any more customers.
Yeah.
You're just not. I can't stress that enough. Like in this industry, it's like, just don't lie to people. Like there's no coming back from that.
Was this back in? Sorry, real quick. Was this back in January of 22 or?
No, 23.
Of this year.
Yeah, like this year.
4 months ago.
Yeah,
4 months ago.
Let's go.
Yeah. It's all still very fresh.
How did you guys kind of find your customers? Did you have all that lined up before you even began? This last step.
Yeah, I mean, we basically we started marketing pretty early, and so I come from like a marketing and sales background, and so as I was like looking at the hosting space, I was like pretty confident that I could. I mean, because basically like nobody was marketing or putting out any content or anything, so I was just our whole strategy from the get-go was like we're just gonna put out some content. It's not gonna be very good. I don't know how to make content or anything. Like I don't have this dope studio that you guys have, but the really nice. Or like the cool mics. But the point being was like I'm just gonna show my face and Eric's face and like who we are, what we look like, how we talk, what kind of like the values that we're about, and that was like above and beyond compared to what a lot of people were doing, and everyone's very like anonymous and stuff like that. And so we just
very sorry, real quick, just very like sketchy about the details.
Yeah, just like not like really open about everything. And we just decided to take the complete opposite approach. And so, yeah, we had all the slots sold out for months in advance. Yeah, in advance.
What kind of content were you guys making, and you were posting it on like social media, or?
Yeah, so we were doing Twitter is like the pretty much where most people are finding us. So I'm a huge believer in doing like, like short form and then long form. So it's super easy to tweet without like very much effort, time, or money going into it. So that's like how you like, get your reach. And then if people wanted to learn more about us, we have a YouTube channel where we post like more in-depth stuff about like, what our facility looks like, like some of the immersion stuff we did, or just like any of our thoughts and opinions. So it's like basically like giving people all the homework to do on you, like, because like by the time they would book a Zoom with us, that they were 90% of the way there, like, because we had given them so much of the homework about us going into it. So by the time they got to us, it was, pretty straightforward. They had a really good idea. They had like one or two questions about some like, how do you guys do repairs, or, where do I ship my stuff to, or like how long's your contract, or whatever, stuff like that. And then, boom, boom. Yeah, sounds great. Let's do it, guys. Right.
Nice.
So
you guys aren't discriminating like on, MOQs, or were you guys looking to get Bitcoin miners, or were you just looking kind of to like get anyone intrigued?
We were just kind of looking for anybody that wanted to do it. We didn't have, like you said, we don't have an MOQ, show up with one miner. That's perfectly fine. Again, we started with one miner. We never want to be the guys that tell people, hey, you're a small customer, get lost. I just don't think that's
it's not how you win the community.
Yeah, it's not very Bitcoin of you.
Yeah.
It's all about the small guy, and so we never want to tell the small guy, go fuck off. It's just not right in our opinion.
All your miners are good with us.
Yeah.
We're no discriminating.
Yeah.
Good.
The only thing we don't like is Canon.
Yeah, please don't bring any Canon miners. We just don't. Bring a What's miner, bring a Bitmain product. Even like we have L7s that we do. We got some Cadena miners and even altcoin stuff like that. That's all good with us.
As long as they consume power and they don't break down, it's
just no Avalons, please.
No S17s.
Yeah. No,
oh my God.
No. Yeah, no S17s. Any of the ones that got bad reputations, we don't want to deal with those.
Totally.
We'll tell you no.
I mean, S17s are just...
Yeah, I mean, they suck.
They are just garbage. I remember we spent we did a whole bunch of S17 repairs for my last company on our own, our internal machines, and like half of them that we like fixed immediately
start breaking.
Yeah, just start breaking. They're so fickle. I remember that was one of the first models I was like introduced to, and everyone just had terrible things to say. Versus like I love the like warm-hearted nostalgia of an S9.
Yeah,
like it doesn't matter who you're talking to, someone like is going to speak positively of the S9.
I know. We weren't around like the mining space for the S17 times or whatever, but I'm sure that was absolute chaotic madness.
Imagine if you're like one of these brokers who is helping like a Pubco scale, and you deliver on these 17s and
none of them work. Holy crap, dude. Oh God,
I can imagine.
And they're calling you like, hey, like 40% of these we're dead on arrival.
It's like, you got to call Bitmain.
I didn't make any of these. I don't know what to tell you, but I want to help you.
Mm-hmm. I can sell you more.
That's tough.
So you guys mentioned, you don't like Avalons because they're just always breaking down. Are you guys also providing like repair services for your customers, or?
So there's another facility just south of us that's like 45 minutes away. So we bring all the repairs to them. I can do like fan replacements, and I can replace hash boards if you send me new ones, stuff like that. But I kind of draw the line because, like Steven says, I'm an auto mechanic, but an auto mechanic, they never let us like mess with the circuitry on the control boards and stuff like that. So that's where I kind of draw the line. I want to start learning more because it is important to know that and to be able to fix these miners. It's not incredibly difficult. It's just electronics, just at a very small scale. and it's very tedious, and I'm not a huge fan of tedious shit like that. But it is what it is. I'm gonna have to learn it. But no, we bring the miners a bit south of us. But I do all the other stuff. But no, we've only ever had problems with like older S19s that were in incredibly terrible environments. Like we had one customer, his miners looked like they had been run in a desert, like non-filtered air in a desert. The front, like the metal screens on the fans, those were complete rust.
Oh, I've seen stuff like that.
Yeah, it's bad.
There were bugs all over them.
Yeah.
It was disgusting.
Yeah.
And so like his miners are the only ones that have really had issues.
Yeah.
But so we quickly realized how important it was, because when we had ours running in our basement, we had it running in air for like 6 months. And then when I cleaned it off for, put an immersion, it was basically clean. There was no dust on it at all. And so we quickly realized how important it was to have, a nice clean environment, and it just extends the life of these miners. And that overall, because what you spend in, air filters saves you on the back end, for the sense that you don't ever go down as much, because you don't have the dust build up and the moisture then build up, and then you get corrosion, and then your miners go down. And because once you get the corrosion and dust start building up, it just becomes, one thing after another. Again, same thing we see in the automotive industry, is it just causes all kinds of issues, and it doesn't stop. Once it's there, it's a cancer. It just ruins everything. And so it's so important to have a very clean environment for these miners. And so it's
just don't cheap out on it.
Yeah.
If you're, buying a container, or, you're doing it like in a building or whatever, like you're spending so much money on these machines. Don't cheap out on the container and the air filtering. Like it's going to kill you. You're going to lose so much money on the back end with your repairs. Like don't cheap out on that. It is so not worth it. Like,
and the worst thing with repair is like, it's not even about like, okay, let's say you just don't care. You're like, whatever, I'll run it on the floor and it'll get dusty, and there will be 30 grams of protein in the machine by the time we're done with it. But at the end of the day, whatever, I'll just get it repaired, bada bing, bada boom. It's like, well, one, you're expecting people to clean this, and then to be able to put this high stress on these boards. Like that's the other thing. Any minute you put this board on a repair bench is like a minute of stress that isn't good for the board. So like, it's just like, the preventative maintenance, it's like preventative healthcare. Give these machines a good place to live in.
It just makes your life so much easier. Like, especially if you're like, actually trying to scale something up, call it like, past 20 miners, like you've got 50, we've got 144 in our container, and it's like, what a headache it's going to be if 4 of them are breaking every other day. And it's like, now it's like this business that we're trying to scale can't be scaled because we're so bogged down on fixing miners. Another 4 went down, another 5 went down. It's like, how are we ever going to scale to 1,000 miners? It's like, now there's going to be 40 miners breaking every single day. Like this is just insanity. And now it's like this headache that you didn't foresee happening. And you're like, okay, now I have to hire like 10 people to help me repair all these things. And it's like, okay, now my margins are all whack and screwed up. And it's like, just don't cheap out on it, and just save yourself all that and enjoy when your miners run for a year without ever turning off, and how awesome that is, and how passive it all becomes as well. Like that's kind of like what your goal is.
Yeah, that's what they're made for. That's why they're ASICs, and they're not we're not running GPUs anymore. Right. ASICs need to run 24/7 to do their one job.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
We've been talking about marketing, and you guys are a connection through a good friend of ours, Tom, at Hashbranch. And I wanted to kind of talk about your experience with Hashbranch and how all that laid out together. And
Tom's been great. I've talked to him a number of different times on the phone, and I think what he's doing with Hashbranch is really like spectacular. I've told him this, I think like what you guys are, your mission, like what you're trying to do is like right. It's correct in the right direction that you guys are heading, and I've really been like pulling for him and that whole team, like I want them to basically like take Compass's position in the marketplace and have somebody like a Hashbranch Because Compass doesn't own any of their own facilities. Like, they don't tell you that, but like, they don't actually own their own facilities, but they don't, advertise that, right? And something like what Tom is doing, where they're, openly saying that, we're a review site. We don't own any of these sites, but like, these are some of the sites that we endorse, and they've got like really good analytics that they've recently put in, with, like, their premium listings and stuff like that. And I think it's 100% the right direction. Like, if you're somebody looking for, where should I host my miners, like, go hashbranch.com. You get literally, anybody who's anybody hosting is more than likely on there. And you can find, enough information about each one to give yourself, start making a list of, like, the places that you like, and, the locations that are near you. And like, I think you can sort by like the energy mix, and even stuff like that, which is really cool. Like, there's just tons of stuff that you can do to like narrow down like the providers that you're looking for.
I'm super happy to hear that. We hung out with Tom and Deepak in Houston.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we got
down at Empower.
Yeah, we got to meet at Empower, and then also hung out, and Tom was on the pod.
Yeah.
So it's awesome because his episode will be airing next week.
Nice.
So then, you guys will be down the queue, and it'll be perfect, because
right on.
Hopefully the audience, will remember Hashbranch. And I'm just happy to hear that Tom does, build that personal relationship with the people who he vets on the marketplace. It's super important, because all of a sudden there's just a bunch of other companies trying to do the same thing. And I mean, it's not about just like giving me a database of everyone who's hosting. The whole point is that there's a million things that can go wrong once I hand my ASIC over to someone. How'd you guys run into him or the company?
I think we were looking at different marketing channels, and I think, where did we find him? I can't even remember. I think
probably like Telegram or Twitter.
Yeah, it must have been on Telegram. I think he was just advertising or something. And we checked out his site, and then we were like, oh, hey, no, this is a great place, because he had mentioned we wanted to get, we wanted people to be able to research us. And so that was the one thing, is he's a review site. It's like, great, let's get on him. Let's try to get some reviews on here, and, get people to look at us. That's where we send people is, hey, look at Hashbranch. You can look at all our competitors too, and look at us. You make your own decision based on what you want.
Yeah.
And it just, it just made a huge amount of sense to us.
Yeah. I think it's what the space needs too, is someone who's going to just spearhead the, we got to get this whole like trust thing like under control and stop scamming each other. Like, let's just stop. We got to stop the scamming. It's killing all of us that are trying to like do this the right way. And like, we're all so sick and tired of it. So like, it's cool to see him like, take on that challenge, right?
It's a big responsibility, and
it is,
and it's he's really been growing it, and it's been great to just watch, from the sidelines.
For sure. Yeah. Shout out to Tom.
Hashbranch.
Come on, we're all pulling for you. Like, all of us, all the miners are all pulling for Hashbranch. Like,
what makes it genuine and good for Bitcoin is that like there's way too much competition going on, and I think when you're in the mining industry, you realize that there isn't a need for competition. Like, we're companies who do similar things, but like you guys are saying, it's about finding the right situation for yourself. And that's not going to come from the top companies all trying to outcompete each other. Well, this guy's did this, or mine is this, and it's good to have the analytics to see the uptime yourself,
right?
To know exactly what kind of energy is being used for the facility, to find people like you guys are saying in your own neighborhoods, that beginning importance of personal connection and working with the people who do all these jobs that are required for Bitcoin mining to be able to, to even start up in the first place.
Right. Yeah.
I just like, I love the concept, and I love that it is actually someone who we all are like, this guy is honest, and we believe in like what he's saying and what him and his team are doing.
Just pull it, the community pulling for you, right? And that's all you can ask for, right?
Yeah.
So just all execution now. I guess the hard part. You know? But you got the community behind you, and that makes a huge difference, right? And I think we shot a time out on. We did a podcast like a month ago, and I think we mentioned him on there too. And just we're trying to do that with like a lot of the guys that we've talked to and have like good relationships with.
Yeah.
So.
I'm just happy podcasts are like moving into our industry too. Like
me too.
We all have like great conversations with each other, and usually they're like in appropriate times. Like we're all partying, sharing great ideas. So it's good when we all sit down and do it in a nice setting like this.
Yeah. I think like just the community is like so hungry for just like content, information, and like so somebody's got to put a podcast studio together and have guys on who talk about how they built their first container, right? It's like people just want to hear it, they want to learn from it, they want all that stuff. So it's like cool to that's happening for us, right?
Even beyond even just like beyond trying to convince people about Bitcoin, I think it's like you're saying, it's about the people who are in it right now. Like
for sure,
we're all super nerdy and we want to learn more.
Yeah.
Like the only way to learn more is you have to get your perspective changed, and you just have to keep wanting to learn more. That's what's so cool about the Bitcoin community. Now I think there are toxic maxis. Like that's something that I really want to like kill them with compassion and kindness.
I agree.
Like stop thinking that we're all gonna eat meat.
Yeah.
And that we're all just like,
it's like it's such like they're like a very narrow box, right? And so they have like this very like we're gonna eat meat, and all fiat is bad, and like they have like these all
crypto's a
scam, and like it's very like strong opinions, and it's like if we're gonna do this whole like hyper Bitcoinization thing, it's like we're gonna have to make this like a bigger box for people, right? The whole like we can't squeeze all 7 billion people into this little box. Like we're gonna have to make this box bigger, but like it'll be better in the long run. It's just like some people aren't gonna want to eat beef every single day, and that's totally fine, and they'll mix in some chicken and maybe some lettuce, and who cares really? But like just like making it more like approachable for people who are looking on the outside to come in, because like they're so just like strong about their opinions, and it's like overwhelming if you're looking from the outside and you're kind of like wishy-washy, like unsure about it. But like some of those guys seem cool, but like I'm not sure about the maxis, and you're like trying to figure out if you're gonna like join this little group, or like this little community or club or whatever we want to call it. And it's like just making like things more open and like easy to be approachable to come into, and the maxis are not particularly good at
no
that, right?
Like the way I see it is like it's like when you want someone to join the gym, like, and then the maxis are just in the corner, like
kind of like looking at you, like making fun of your exercises, and like you don't know how to do anything correctly,
and they're deadlifting, like they're ego lifting, they're just dropping weights everywhere,
and it's like intimidating, and like you're just like, holy crap, I just came in here because I wanted to lose a couple pounds, like this is overwhelming, like I'm out of here,
And with a lot of things, there's like a way that you want to convince people, but I think the Bitcoin way is you let the people convince themselves. I always say this is a discovery journey, that's the same kind of like thing with the gym. It's like it's about getting it to your own pace, and I want people to walk into a place to be healthy because they want to be healthy, and I want people to get into Bitcoin not because the world is ending or because fiat is crashing. It's not because I'm going to say I told you so every time Bitcoin goes up another 1,000. It's like what
Yeah.
we're already in agreement. It's not about conversion to USD. It's about
Yeah,
getting Bitcoin applicable. I'm trying to see the utility of it.
right.
I'm hoping for the scaling of Lightning and all these future projects. I'm really
Sure.
I'm really hoping that we just keep it going in the right direction. And that's my only beef with maxis is that hey, I get it. I like to have a good time. I just ate a pound of ground beef last night.
Yeah.
From a cow that I bought from a farmer, and
That's
so
cool.
it's like I support a lot of those ideas, but
Yeah.
like
We don't have to be like so strict.
exactly
about it.
inclusivity is huge.
Like it's like a very like it's all it's like a very like strict regimented like way of like how they view the world, which I get it. And the funny thing is a lot of the time they're right.
Yeah, they are.
Like it's not that they're like they're very smart and they're intelligent people, and most of the time like they are right, which makes it difficult to like go against these guys, because like a lot of the time they are right about like the things that they're like sounding the alarm bell on and like being like very aggressive about. It's just like the approach that you're taking is like you're just scaring everybody away, man. Like it's like you're in the gym and you're just slamming your weights around and you're just like scaring everybody, dude. Like
I agree.
you know what I mean? Like you're like this big muscle dude, just like, and everyone's freaked out by you. It's like, just bring it down just a second. Like let's get a couple new guys in the gym, and then anyways,
Humble Midwesterners. I feel like we're just doing the Midwestern thing.
Yeah.
Well, everyone's got to feel good.
I'll let me know. We're gonna have a hard time getting growing the community if we try to do it like any other way.
Yeah. No, totally. What's in store for the future with you guys? You said you guys are hungry and you want to keep, going for more and more. You guys are calculated, so I'm sure you have somewhat of an idea of how it's going to go.
We have big plans that extend pretty far into the future. So one of our plans is, since where our facility sits on 320 acres that we own, and there's a wind farm about 3 miles south of us, a 200 megawatt wind farm. And so the one idea we have is we want to put wind turbines on that land that we own, so we can produce our own energy.
Nice.
Which means obviously, the second we produce our own energy, we become a power producer, and every Bitcoin miner in the world has to buy from a power producer. We no longer have to. We're a power producer, which means everyone else is now uncompetitive compared to us.
Wow.
And so that's the big idea that we have.
Is there like any regulation in terms of like
No,
that? It's not like double dipping or anything like.
Not in Iowa.
Not in Iowa, no. Not in Franklin County. No ordinances, no energy, or there's no rules to say that we can't. But yeah, we really believe like we're kind of one of the few miners who are like really uniquely positioned to be like able to generate their own power at scale. And like 200 megawatt wind farm, like the company Alliant owns that wind farm, obviously. But like they did all the homework and realized that was a great place. They could have put the wind turbines anywhere.
Sure.
Right. And they did all the homework and realized that was a great place to put it. And so, we're not going to pretend like we're too smart and just go, if they thought it was good enough to spend $200 million building that there, we think it's probably good to build it right here too, a couple miles away. And like, kind of one of the longer term, like, I guess, beliefs that both of us have about mining is that, you're going to have to really figure out how to either generate your own energy or really like partner with an energy provider, because, the margins are going to get narrow, like smaller and smaller and smaller from if you're buying power from the grid and then selling it to the Bitcoin network via hashes through an ASIC, right?
Gotcha.
Right. I'm a huge believer that margin, like the margins that we have now are, they're pretty good, and during a bull run, they're ridiculous. And that's inevitably, those margins are going to get cut. And it's all about like in the commodity business, just producing your commodity for less than everyone else. And then you're totally fine. Right. So, anyways, that's kind of the long-term vision is putting up like huge, 3, 4, 5 megawatt wind turbines on the land, and then just having like a container, transformer, and then a container, and then a burr in the middle of the fields. And that's kind of like the big vision that I was talking about kind of earlier, as we were speaking, like that was kind of what I was seeing. I was looking at those wind turbines, and I was kind of looking at our land, and I was looking at the Bitcoin miners, and we were just kind of like, you know what, wouldn't this just be really something if we just pulled this all off? You know, this would just be wild.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe we're delusional enough to believe that like we might actually pull it off or something, but I kind of think we will.
Yeah.
So, you know, we'll see what happens in like, 5-10 years, kind of where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
Went from one miner to 144 in less than a year. So
Yeah.
There you go.
So who knows? We'll see. We'll see what happens.
What about you mentioned the future of mining.
Yeah.
I have some ideas.
Sure.
I want mining to become like a pleb sport.
Yeah.
I want it on smaller scales. Like,
Yeah.
I want people to be not even aware that their like apartment building is heating them,
I'm
and their water.
So bullish on that. So
Seriously.
bullish on that. Like,
Just once you explain the idea to people, it's like,
I had a tweet that went kind of like semi-viral.
Nice.
And the tweet that I was saying, it was like, I would never bet against like the mining community. Like, guys would rather find a way to heat their homes with ASICs than turn them off. Like, that's not a group of guys that you bet against. They like literally invented a new way to heat their homes. And like some of the stuff I've seen is like so cool that people are doing. And it's like, those are like, that's a group of guys that you just, hey, no matter what the odds are, like, just don't bet against them. Like, they'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I'm just so bullish on those like DIY guys that are like really hands-on and just invent like cool things like in the heat and ways of using it. Like, I don't know like what's going to happen, but like, I just know that there's so much like really good creative brain power, like working at that stuff that like, it's going to be super cool to see like what comes out of it.
Do you guys follow Home Mining Wizards, or are you in the group on Telegram?
Yeah, dude, it's a lot of fun.
It's like, I just picture those. Those are the kinds of people
Exactly.
talk about, Steven. Just like
Exactly those kind of guys. Like,
these people will figure it out, and they're not even using duct tape at this point.
yes. I mean, they're a very, very like, clever group of guys that, are just like figuring out these ways to keep their ASICs running literally at any cost. Like, like if I've got to break even and use the heat, then I guess that's what I'll do, and it's like, it's amazing to see like all that cool stuff happening.
No, I'm enthusiastic about it, and I want to start dabbling into it myself, like, because part of it is just like, I get the theory of how it would work, but the other part is like actually doing it yourself, and I feel like that's just, it's such a game changer to be able to understand like just like everything about your house and the way that it works, that you can just be like, look, I don't need help from anyone, like, I'm going to take care of this myself. It's like the ultimate, it's not like libertarian, but you can see why people
Very like sovereign type,
right,
beliefs.
the sovereign belief.
Yeah, where, I'll heat my own home.
Exactly.
I'll handle it.
What about like farming? Are there like, is there anything you can do with like ASICs that you can, turn into like regenerative farming? Or do you guys know anything about like kind of like creative ways with farming for Bitcoin mining?
Yeah, there's obviously heat can be used for tons of different stuff. The one main thing is, if you can heat like a greenhouse or something, that's the big advantage. You can heat your greenhouse, you can heat your shed when it's in the middle of winter, you're not using equipment. You can heat, if you really wanted to, you could do it to like slow dry your corn. What slow drying is, you put it in a grain bin and then you just have a fan constantly suck in air, and then you heat the air as it goes in. You can use that instead of having the nat gas or the liquid propane setup. You just use the heat from the ASICs. That's what we wanted. That's what we're looking at trying to do for our grain bin site. It just makes sense. It's right there. It's it save us on liquid propane, because we have to wait for the LP guy to show up, fill up the tank, and then start doing it. And then we use so much of that propane where we could just mine at the low rate, have all that excess heat. It's free. We're just dumping it outside right now. The other big advantage down there is like with corn drying, there's huge amounts of electrical infrastructure everywhere. because, the corn dryers use, ours is fairly small. It's 600 amp service just for a real small one. But it's already there, but it only gets used, 2 weeks, 3 weeks out of the year.
Right.
And so there's just so much infrastructure going around everywhere. There's huge amounts of power being pulled just in 2 weeks only. And so you can pull that power the rest of the year when you're not drying corn, and you don't have to pay for that infrastructure.
Just slap some ASICs in there.
Yeah. And you can make money on the infrastructure that's already been paid for to get you the power.
Right.
The corn drying system.
Yeah.
My eyes always light up when you can just slap an ASIC in there and solve a problem.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
No, that's what I mean. Again, it's so important to have the infrastructure there. The infrastructure is so expensive, and it's just, if it's already there, you save so much headache and cost, and you don't have to convince people to help you out. You're just there on your own, just doing it.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I was like thinking in my head, like what's a good indicator, how long have we been going and doing the conversation? And right now I hear Jazzercise is going pretty hard. They got their music going.
They're banging in there. Yeah.
They like the instructor, she gets so hyped.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, she starts yelling.
Yeah.
What you guys should do is plug in some ASICs here and try to drown them out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you guys want to play the noise game.
See who can be louder.
Uh-huh.
I'll bet on the ASICs.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say yeah, I'll keep that joke for when we're off air. Where can people find you guys?
Sure. Yeah. You can check us out. Our website, just wilsonmining.io. Twitter, we're just Wilson Mining. Telegram, same thing, Wilson Mining. We're pretty active on YouTube too. You can find us on YouTube.
Nice.
Wilson Mining. We post. Surprise. We're pretty much Wilson Mining on everything. We're super active. Twitter is probably where the most active on, if you want to reach us and kind of see like what we're up to on a more day-to-day basis, and just like what's going on in our heads that we're tweeting out randomly from time to time.
Nice.
And stuff like that. So yeah, check us out, hit us up in the DMs if you've got questions. Like, we're super open to just like answering things and helping in ways that we can, and taking a look at anything. So yeah.
Great.
Yeah. We started as a home miner, so we want to, because I always bring it back to that motive history is you wouldn't have future mechanics if the mechanics that are knowledgeable, that have been knowledgeable for 30 years, didn't help out the guy that was 3 months into it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to help out, and so we want to give that same thing back. Is when we first came onto the scene, we had guys helping us out, answering our questions, so we want to offer that back. So
Right.
yeah, if you guys don't know, just reach out to anybody in the Telegrams, us, just start asking questions, and the good guys will find you and answer your questions.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's on you to ask it and do research. No one's just going to do things for you. But, there is help out there. You just have to start asking for it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time to be on the podcast.
Yeah.
Had a really great time. Yeah. Very welcome, Stephen and Eric from Wilson Mining, and good luck in the future. And hopefully we can sit down and have a conversation again soon.
For sure. Yeah. Thanks.